Guys, welcome to one of our first Photoshop tutorials that I'm going to try to do with you guys for the rest of the semester. Hopefully you'll enjoy doing these. So as you know, we started doing our scanner self-portraits. So for this part of our tutorial, I'm going to try to show you how to get to this point. So let me kind of go backwards. So we kind of started with a scan that looks like this. And what I'd like to show you is some ways to brighten it up and maybe soften it a little bit, as well as add a little bit more perhaps drama to it by maybe changing the color of your eyes. You can also change hair color, and really you can do just about anything to make it look cool. There's going to be another part where we add, if you want, a sort of a pattern tattoo on the face to sort of make it even more surreal and edgy looking. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do, and hopefully we can incorporate some of the things that we learned by watching the Linda tutorial, is to duplicate this layer. So in case something happens while we're trying to enhance this image, we can always go back to the original picture and start over. So what you want to do, and this is how I do it, is to go up to Layer and simply just duplicate layer, and it will name it for you background copy, and hit OK. So now you have two copies. You should have a background and a background copy at this point. So now we want to do some adjustments, and we're going to do some adjustments to this background copy, okay? So I know in the past I've asked you to do adjustments from here, image adjustments, and you can still do that if you feel comfortable doing that. I'm going to try to do what the Linda tutorial taught us, and try to not destroy the image that much, and try to use layers, and then if I decide that I like them, I can flatten it later. So in our workspace, remember, one thing you might want to do to get your workspace to look similar to mine and to deal more with photography is to go up to Window, Workspace, and then you can choose. It might be set for Essentials default, but let's go ahead and set it for photography. You might have already done that. And when you do, you should have these different palettes in your toolbar. Remember, your toolbar you can have either as two columns, or you can click on this little arrow here and have a double column. Remember, this is your tool option bar, so whenever you choose a tool, it's going to highlight it up here, and then you can, you know, enhance it or plug in some more parameters to make it, you know, operate a certain way. And then you have your menu bar right here, and then you have these different palettes. And right now we have the adjustment palette, and you definitely need to have your layers, which is really one of the most fundamental parts, important parts of Photoshop. So I'm going to go up to my adjustment panel, and we're going to brighten it a little bit and change the contrast. So what I'm going to do is use the levels. So it looks like a little chart, like little mountains going up and down. This is called a histogram. So I'm going to click on it. When you see this, basically it's a chart of all your shadows, highlights, and midtones. And they're represented here. This little dark arrow is your shadows. This middle gray area is your midtones, and then the white is your highlights. So typically what you do to kind of enhance it is kind of scoot over. You can see there's a little bit of space between the shadows and where the chart or histogram starts. I'm just going to kind of move it over, oops, right there. And you can see it kind of enhance the contrast. And then I'm going to move my highlights over to where it starts a little bit. So that looks a little bit better. And instead of changing the actual image, it just created a layer. And if I decide that I don't want it, I can get rid of it without, you know, losing any of the pixels or, you know, destroying the image too much. So to get rid of that chart, just hit the little double arrows right here. And again, just to review some layers, you know, they have these little eyes right here. You can click on them to hide the changes that you've made. You know, click on it again to bring it back. To change the name of a layer, which is something you want to get in the habit of doing, double click on the text of it, and then you can type in something like I'm going to put in contrast. So I know that's what I did. And then with an adjustment layer, I can always click on it again, and it should, yeah, it should bring up the chart, and I can continue adjusting the contrast and brightness if I want to. All right, so that's one thing you might want to do. Something I'm going to do, just because I'm much older than you guys and I have these horrible dark circles under my eyes. You guys might have them for a different reason. Mine is because of old age and I'm a little tired, but you guys might, especially this time of year, have a lack of sleep. So you might have some little dark circles that you might want to get rid of. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you need to do is first make sure you're in your background copy. So click on your background copy. Remember, to change a layer, you need to highlight or make sure that layer's highlighted. Sometimes when you're trying to do something, it might be that a layer is not highlighted or you're in the wrong layer. So if something's not working correctly, just double check that. So something fun that I like to use is the patch tool. So if you come over here, remember your tool option, your toolbar, if you hover the mouse over certain icons, it will tell you what those tools do. And also you can click on these little arrows here to show hidden tools. So the patch tool, your patch tool might be hidden under something. Or I'm not sure. I just remember it being hit anyway. If you're having trouble finding the patch tool, come up, bring your computer, and I'll help you find it. It might just be up here because it doesn't seem to have a hidden arrow. But anyway, it looks like this. It looks basically like a little patch. So click on that, and before you use it, you might want to zoom in. I do this by clicking on my little magnifying glass in my toolbox. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and then I'm going to select the patch tool. And basically, I'm just going to kind of circle where, oops, that's too much. So deselect. And it's much easier to do this with a mouse, but I'm going to try it with just the keypad, with the mouse pad on my laptop. So basically you're kind of selecting the part that you want to patch up. And so what I'm going to do is I've selected my little dark circle, and now I'm going to move it over to a part where I want it to mimic that part of the skin. So this part of my skin looks a little bit better and more smooth. I'm going to do that. And it kind of changed it a little bit. You might have to do it a few times to kind of get the effect that you want. It's hard to see sometimes, so you might have to select, deselect. Up. I'm going to do it again. So it takes a little bit. It might take a few times to do this. But it's fun to take a picture of someone that looks older, and just kind of try to fix it. So that looks a little bit better. Yeah, might be too light. Here, try it one more time. So the patch tool, and there's still that line there. Anyway, I'm going to add a little Gaussian blur, so it'll disappear anyway. Some other things that you might want to play around with are blemishes. So I have this little zit right here, and one of the tools that I like to use to get rid of blemishes is the clone stamp. So it looks like a stamp right over here, and just click on the arrows so you can see which one you want to use. You want to use the clone stamp tool. Click on that. You can see it highlighted up here in the tool option bar. I might change the opacity back up to 100%. And maybe that's what I needed to do with the patch tool. Anyway, I'll look at it again. And so I'm going to change the size of my clone stamp now so that it fits more to the area that I want to clone. All right. So what you do is you hit the Alt key to kind of mimic or pick the area that you want to clone, like that, and then you move it over to the area and see it kind of disappeared. Sometimes you have to, like, again, do it a few times. It's a little bit too light. Right here, looks a little bit better. And I'm going to try this patch tool again. Well, no, I guess it was okay. Anyway, this is good enough for now. So what I'm going to do now to make my skin look all airbrushed and flawless is I'm going to add a Gaussian blur to this. So what I'm going to do now is actually merge these layers together. These two layers, my contrast and my background copy, because I like how it looks so far. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten those two. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to right click and then just say merge down like that. All right, so now that I have merged that layer, those two layers, I'm going to rename this background copy. I'm going to again, maybe contrast, brightness and contrast, just so I know that that's the layer that I did a lot of that on. So I'm just going to put bright and contrast. Now please take the time to name your layers. Some of you don't do that, and I at least go through the motion so that you're familiar with it and can do it. So just, you know, even if you don't feel like doing it, do it for me, okay? So we have that layer. Now I'm going to duplicate that layer. So, and just so you can see the difference, so this is what we had before, this is what we have now. And again, I might go back and clean this up. And so that's the beauty of Photoshop. I can always go back into this layer, and because I might go and fix this a little bit. I might do some more patching over here and maybe blend this a little bit more. So, but anyway, I want to get through this, and so I'm not going to try to take up too much of your time. So the next thing is we're going to duplicate that layer. So I'm going to duplicate the bright and contrast layer. So again, layer, new, layer. Oops. So if you see something grayed out, I probably don't have the layer selected. So make sure it's selected, then go to layer, duplicate layer, and then I'm going to change this to blur. So I know that's what I'm doing with that layer. So I'm going to make sure the blur layer is highlighted. Then I'm going to go up to Gaussian filter, and then I'm going to select blur, and then from this context menu I'm going to select Gaussian blur like that. So basically it kind of does this Gaussian blur, and you're looking at this right now and you're like, oh my god, that's way too blurry. But what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of blur it to where I think it looks, the skin looks pretty and sort of flawless and airbrushed. So you do that by moving this radius and the and it chooses how a certain amount of pixels to kind of play around with. So let's see, maybe that. And then I'm going to hit OK. So then what I'm going to end up doing is erasing parts of this layer, the blur layer, so that some of the sharpness from the bright and contrast layer comes through. But my skin looks a lot better because of this Gaussian blur. So to see what I'm doing, first I'm going to go up to View and Fit on Screen so I can see the whole thing. And then I'm going to select the Eraser tool. So it looks like an eraser. Again, if you don't see that tool, maybe click on the arrow in the corner and see if it's hidden. So it looks basically like an eraser. It gets highlighted up here in the tool option bar. Again, you can change the size depending on how much you want to erase. So I'm going to erase most of this except for the skin quality. So once you have that, I'm going to kind of go over it. So now you can see, so you can choose what to erase. And so this other layer, this brightness and contrast is coming through. And then where I want to leave it, the Gaussian blur, I can. So it's kind of a fun little trick. So I want to keep all that detail because I think the hair and, you know, even the jean jacket, like it's so detailed, and but I do want my skin to look kind of ethereal. All right, so you can see here when I hide this layer, you can, here I'll hide this one and this one. So basically this is what I've erased. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right. And I do want to erase a little bit, so I'm going to erase, I'm going to make my eraser a little bit smaller and, you know, do my eyes. Oops, I did it too weird. So you can always hit, if you do something you like, you can always go back to undo eraser. I think I need to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So, you know, I do want to bring back some clarity in my, you know, back in my eyes, my eyebrows. I am going to bring back sort of, you know, important details like my nose and maybe the kind of shadow, you know, just to make it kind of go around the edges a little bit. Let me do my lips a little bit. So now you can see that kind of effect where the Gaussian blur has now just affected parts of my skin. And it's up to you. You might want to leave parts of it, like, you know, the blur, maybe in parts of your image. It's up to you. Like I might bring a little bit, like these kind of details of the hair. And again, because it's a layer, I can always go back and do more. So if I feel like I missed some, I can do that. Go here a little bit. There. You can see how it really kind of softened my skin, and it almost looks like a painting. So that's pretty cool. All right. One thing I am going to do, because I don't like this little spot right here, I'm going to go back and try to fix that. So what's nice is I can go back to that brightness and contrast layer and try to do that. And I'm going to pause this and try to fix it and let you know. You know, I'll come right back and let you know what I did. But that's what's nice about Photoshop. You can have all these different layers, and if for some reason you're like, oh my God, I don't like this layer, I want to redo it, you can delete it. And obviously there are other ways, you know, to work with the layers in Photoshop. To kind of touch this up a little bit better, I'm going to hide my blur layer. So I'm back to where I had brightened it up. And I'm going to try my cloning stamp. So I'm just going to take the clone stamp and see if I can smooth that out a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little practice when you're using these kind of things and you're trying to patch it up. And again, that I still have a lot of darkness, so I might try the patch tool again and try to do it more up here. All right, and I'm gonna fix my little place where I tried to fix my zit. So again, Photoshop is really just kind of being patient and you know, again, it's almost like a drawing or painting where you're just kind of um, subtly doing things. And it's the subtlety that really makes the image look um, really cool, I think, and doesn't, you know, you don't want your image to look photoshopped, if that makes any sense. Even though it's been photoshopped, you don't want people to be like, oh, it looks, you did a good job photoshopping. They want to appreciate the image and how cool it looks and sort of not pay attention to, you know, like hokey Photoshop things like funky filters and stuff like that. All right. I think that's fine for now. And I could, this is, you know, like a little highlight on my nose. I might try to darken, but anyway, it's up to you. I mean, you could, you know, you could get really detailed with this. So I'm going to bring back my blur layer um, and take a look at it again. View, fit on screen. Still have that there, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Now I'm going to show you how to a way to select parts of your face and maybe change the color, like your eye color or your hair color. So in the past, we've looked at some of these selection tools up here, like this marquee, the lasso tool, the quick selection tool. But one of the things I like to do is use a quick mask mode. So to do that, again, you want to be in your bright and contrast filter. So if you go over here to the toolbox, you can click on this button. Well, first let's zoom in because I want to be able to select my eye. So I'm going to go to view. You know, you can zoom in that way, or you can use the magnifying glass. You can use key commands too. I'm not a big key command person because I can't remember them. I'm a visual person, so it's just easier for me to go up here or look at the icons over here. So to change the to select something in quick mask mode, if you look at your toolbox, so you might want to make it instead of a single column, you might want to make it into a double column so you can see the stuff at the bottom. It looks like a circle with, I mean, a rectangle with a circle inside of it. So it's like a button you push. You click it, and you can see right here up here it says the layer, and then it's in quick mask mode. And then you select your brush tool, which looks just like a brush, like a basic brush. You can go up here to the tool option bar and size it to whatever's convenient for you. And then what you'll see is this kind of red color. And so everything that's turning red is going to be selected. So this is a cool way to select something and do it in detail as well instead of trying to use the magic lasso or something like that. So I did my eye, and then I'm going to turn off the quick mask mode. So you come back over here and you hit it. You just like kind of press the button. So now you see it selected. Now what's selected actually is everything but my eye. So when you have a border going around the image like you see here, this little dotted border, and then you see the little dotted circle, that means everything's selected. I don't want that. I just want the eye color to be selected. So I'm going to go up here to select, and I'm going to hit invert. So now it's the opposite. Now just the eye color is selected. So again, I'm going to do this in layers. So instead of like just changing the eye color, I'm going to bring the eye pupil into its own layer. So to do that, I'm going to go up here to Layer, New, and via Copy. So what it's going to do is basically copy this little place I selected into its own layer. So I can just change that without affecting or destroying this part of the image or changing it. So I have my blur layer. If I close these, you can see what I'm talking about. So that's just my little eye color. So I'll bring that all back. And I want to make sure I'm in that layer. I'm going to go ahead and rename it eye color, so I know that that's what it is. And then I'm going to use the adjustment filter. I'm going to actually go over here and do it this way. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Hue and Saturation. I don't want to create a layer because anyway, it's just easier to do it since I made the eye, the eye pupil its own layer. It's just easier to do it this way. So remember, to change color, you want to use the hue and saturation. So I'm going to kind of zoom in, and you can kind of see here, you can kind of do different colors. You can make your eye like a really funky color. Like actually, in the first one I showed you, I did it like a green color. So I'm going to do this blue color. And then you can, make it brighter. You can make it less brighter. You can change the saturation of it. And I might lighten it a little bit. And then I'm going to hit OK to confirm that change. So now I have blue eyes. Something that's bothering me too are these little lines, or I guess it's the reflection of light from the scanner. So in there, I'm going to do some cloning as well to kind of get rid of those little marks. So I'm going to zoom in even more. So you can really zoom in. I'm going to use the clone stamp. So again, up here in the tool option bar, I'm going to change the size of my clone stamp. And so I'm going to select the part I want to mimic. So again, I'm going to hold it over the place I want, hit the Alt key, and then select it by clicking on my mouse. So now, see, kind of covering up. And so you might have to do it from different parts. So now like here, it's where it was blue. Now that it's a little bit darker where the actual pupil is. I'm going to hit Alt where it's a little bit blacker. Try to do that so it looks more real. There, so that looks a little bit better. And even just masking it a little bit just helps a lot. If you really want to go far, I could also like get rid of the red in my eyes. So again, I could Alt and maybe kind of cover up some of those. Oops, it's making it worse. That's because I'm not in the right layer. So to do that, I'd have to go back down to this brightness and contrast layer. And I can sort of do that if I want. I mean, you can get really detailed with this. Something else I'm going to do to kind of make my eyes a little bit more dramatic, I'm going to stay, and you do need to do this, so be in your bright and contrast layer, and I'm going to do some burning and dodging. So over here, if there should be a tool called, oops, that's not it. Oh, it's a hand, but it looks like a hand kind of in a claw. So you might have this, the dodge tool, instead of the burn tool visible. So you might have this, but just click on the arrow and then you're going to select the burn tool. And basically it can make parts darker. So when you see the burn tool highlighted up here, you can change, what you're trying to burn in. So essentially you're giving it like if you think about it the way a camera burns in the image on a negative, or your sensor, you're giving it more light or exposure. So the darker, so you can do your shadows, you can do your midtones or highlights. So I'm going to do my shadows because I want to kind of make my eyelashes a little bit darker and maybe this crease in my eyelid a little bit darker. And so you can kind of play around with the exposure. I'm going to do like 50%. And then I'm going to have the burn tool selected. So you can see, look, see how dark it got right there? Just to kind of make my eyes look a little bit more dramatic and like I actually maybe put makeup on, which I normally don't do, or at least this semester I haven't. Now that's a little too dark. I don't like that. So I'm going to hit edit, step backwards, and maybe just lower, maybe just only do like 14 or 15%. So it's not quite so dramatic, but subtle. And then you can do the opposite too. You can lighten parts of a picture. So to do that, if I want to brighten the whites of my eye, I'm going to select the dodge tool, which actually would sort of limit the exposure or light hitting the sensor. So I'm going to hit the dodge tool and I'm going to select highlights since that's the light part of my picture. And again, don't do exposure all the way. Maybe start off with something low, and then if you want to make it, if you want a stronger effect, you can increase the exposure. So you can see here how it's brighter. See, just a little bit. And I might see if my teeth aren't visible. But anyway, it's kind of a cool way to maybe just kind of, again, just really refine your image. I'm going to make my eyebrows a little bit darker, so I'm going to go back to the burn tool and play around with that. So shadows, I'm going to make my exposure a little bit there. That might be a little bit too dark, so hit edit, undo. So you can always hit edit, undo. Another way to look at what you've done or go back in your history is to actually go to window and hit history, and there's like, look, there's like a list of everything I've done. So I can actually go back and click on this and it will, and if I hit, close this, it'll delete everything I did before. So if you made a mistake really early on that you want to go and fix, you can do it that way, but you're going to lose anything you did after, just so you don't get confused. So that's another way to look at your history. Remember to always close any of these, you just hit this little double arrow. So I'm going to maybe make my exposure a little bit fainter, so it's not quite, it's, it does something, but it's a little bit more subtle. All right. And then, some other things too, like I might go back into my blur layer and choose the eraser and, maybe bring back some of this, this part, like bring back some of the details of my hair, really refine it. Like here, probably would look better. And I love the scanner, how detailed it was. I mean, so it almost looks like a Renaissance painting. So you can really get really detailed in this. And if you want, like you can get really close up and see your pores and stuff like that. Anyway. So that's basically how I'd like you to improve your picture a little bit. So I'm going to go back to view it on screen so you can kind of see what I've done. All right, so just to kind of show you what I've done, so I'm going to kind of go back. So I'm going to hide the blur, I'm going to hide the eye color, I'm going to hide the brightness and contrast. So it's really quite different. And I've changed it, quite a bit. So, there's some other things you might want to do, some other adjustments. You if you can think of anything creative that you want to do, maybe change part of the picture to black and white or parts of the picture to black and white by, using the quick mask mode. There are other adjustments you can play around with. But let's see what you come up with. And, feel free to bring your laptop up to me. And if you want to know how to do something, I'll try to help you. Okay. But here's some basics to help you get started to clean up your scan and make it a little bit brighter, a little bit more flawless. Part two, we're going to add some patterns, or what I like to call tattoos, to kind of make the image even more funky looking. Okay, so stay tuned. Also, don't forget to save this. So remember, go ahead and save it intact with your layers. So and just get in the habit of saving your work as well, gradually. So in case, our computers freeze up, which they have a tendency to do, just go File, Save As. Go ahead, you don't want to save over your scan, so change the name. So like working, whatever you want to call it, scanner portrait. And then save it wherever. I'm going to save mine to my desktop. You can save it to your photo folder, whatever. And then hit save. So now I have, and hit OK. So now I have my original scan, and then I have my working one that I'm using right now, and I have the layers intact. So also keep in mind that it's going to save it as a Photoshop file. Anytime you have layers, it's going to save it as a Photoshop file. When you flatten it, it will save it as a JPEG. So make sure you save the layers. Don't flatten it. Leave the layers because we're going to go back and do some more things. You might decide to change something, or, so don't flatten it right away. And we can always save a flattened version, still keep a layer version as well. Okay, so stay tuned in part two. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good time. Try to enjoy this. All right. See you later. Bye.